Precisa ferir a pressão, medir a glicemia ou tomar uma vacina? Na Drogasil tem exames, testes e calendário vacinal completo. E o que é melhor, tem sempre uma Drogasil aí perto de você. É fácil, prático e rápido. Dá para ir entre uma música e outra. Procure nossos farmacêuticos. Quanto mais você conhece o que a gente faz na Drogasil, mais você se cuida.
Hi everybody and welcome to the Dr. Psych Mom Show. Today I'm going to be talking about whether you actually toot your own horn enough as a partner. And you may say that's very antithetical to my scorekeeping podcasts, and you would be right if it ended there, but there is more complexity, which is why I have a whole podcast episode about it. Before that, please do subscribe. My most recent one was about, first I had female arousal, and then I had female sexual dysfunction. So if you see a theme, the theme is that guys will pay money for subscriptions to hear about how women's bodies work. So, I mean, like, let's be reasonable. Like, that is obviously true. So, and also women will, because there are way too few resources out there on how to understand yourself and your sex drive as a woman. Or, of course, if you don't want to pay, I have plenty of posts and stuff about similar sorts of things, but these ones are in depth about those issues. Female sexual dysfunction. Spoiler alert, do I think there is female sexual dysfunction? Not in all cases that women think that there is, right? And also the female arousal one. There is female arousal. That is a thing. But you wouldn't know from like many of the things that people tell me that they struggle with, because female arousal, aka spontaneous desire, is not as common as one would hope within monogamy and within relationships. So you should listen and learn about that. Okay, anyway, so now we are moving on to our topic for today, which is that, does your spouse even know the good things that you do for them? So frequently, I will be talking to women in the usual woman situation where the woman talks more than the man, which is not everybody, but it's the one where the woman is more of the emotional pursuer and the man's more of the distancer, and she's always trying to get him to talk, and it's like trying to ask the desk to say something. You know, he barely talks, and or at least, you know, he's talking more than he's ever talked in his whole life, but you know, she doesn't feel like he's talking at all. And so something will happen, and she's never getting enough validation about that he really loves her. She's never getting enough reassurance. That's how she feels. So if this feels like your relationship, well, you're not alone. It's millions of relationships: pursuer, distancer, preoccupied, avoidant, whatever the case may be. It's those cases. And so basically, I'll say to him something like, how often you think about your wife during the day? And she's like, never. He never thinks about me because he never texts me. You know, he never talks to me, he never calls me. He never thinks about me. And he's like, oh, you know, at least once an hour. And she's like, what? What do you mean? And he's like, well, yeah, I mean, I think about you a lot. I think about what you're doing. And I'm giving too much credit. I'll say, what do you think about? And he's like, I think about what you're doing. I think about where you are. I think about, oh, you're at the gym. You're going now to lunch. That's nice. You must be at work doing something. I hope your day is going good. You know, with prompts, he talks about very honestly, not making it up. You know, if these guys could make shit up, they would have a lot less marital problems, you know, because they don't make shit up. They don't talk at all. And then they end up with problems where the woman thinks they don't love her enough. So it turns out, guy thinks about his wife all the time, you know, which is usual, that a guy has his wife kind of in the back burner of his mind if he loves her, and probably even more if he hates her, for the entirety of his workday. And the woman never knew because he never told her. So this is like my post, stop leaving money on the table by not telling your wife how much you love her. In this case, it's how much you think about her. What's another one that guys who are more like this do not usually share? When they get out of a work trip, when they make it so that they somehow get out of going to work travel because they know how hard it is for the wife when they travel for work with the young kids, etc. Some of these idiots, I say affectionately, don't even tell her. What the hell is the point of going through all that shit? to get out of doing something for her sake if then you don't tell her. And so then when I say it to the guys, do you tell her? Did you tell her? How long did it take you? How many emails did you have with your boss? How anxious were you saying that you were, didn't want to go on that trip and trying to get somebody else to go in your stead? How anxious were you? I was very anxious. I had a lot of back and forth. It was a big deal. I was very relieved that I wouldn't have to go. Did you tell her? No. Well, my God, why not? Well, I don't want her to think that I'm doing these things so that I get credit. What the fuck? I mean, like, what? It's like, my God, what self-sabotage? Now, why would somebody act like this? Because they were raised to avoid taking credit. They were raised to be pathologically humble and to never toot their own horn. And certainly never to be thought of as to be in any way manipulative. So they were thought that, so on some level, they think that if they were to say to their wife, I did X, Y, Z for you, then this would be some sort of contract where they think their wife would think that then they, the wife, should do something for the husband, which they should. I mean, like, that's not abnormal. It's good. Like, in a relationship, we do nice things for each other. We go out of our way to make each other happy. And so usually when the man at my exhortation tells the wife, oh yeah, I did everything to get out of this business trip because I didn't want it to be hard for you with the kids, she's like, why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you tell me that? Of course I would want to know that. That makes me feel good. Why didn't you tell me that? Why don't you ever talk to me? So, but like this is positive within the constraints of couples counseling. And then eventually, it gets to be outside of couples counseling because the guy learns, oh, look, I'm supposed to tell her when I do things for her. She doesn't take it as that I'm trying to get credit. She doesn't take it as anything bad or that I'm trying to do something with strings attached. Men who were raised with a lot of strings attached also don't do this. So it's like if you had a mom that it was always like, okay, well, if I do this for you, then you're going to do this for me. Then you love me so much. Then you're going to invite me over. Then you're going to this, blah, blah, blah. Then they are really hesitant to do anything that could be perceived by the spouse as that they're doing it in a strings attached way. So instead, they don't even tell the spouse about the good thing that they did, which then makes the spouse, it takes away something from the spouse. The spouse would have liked to hear about this good thing. It would make them feel good. So what's another one? A big one is women who do stuff in bed and the husband doesn't know it's for them. You have no idea how much this happens. So because men are raised with porn, as I say a lot, they think that if their wife does a lot of crazy shit in bed, it's because that's what women do. That's cool. Oh yeah, of course. I mean, yeah, we do 8 positions in our 40-minute session because she's into it. In fact, she's the one who flips over. Like, cool. You know what else? Like, did you listen to my shit about women within monogamy? Do you know how she's like psyching herself up? Like, she's into it. Like, yeah, okay. Like I'm sure she's into it, but she is really not as into it as you think. At least 5% of that is that's a really low estimate, is for you, out of love for you, out of understanding about responsive desire, out of literally the as I've tried to describe so many times, average monogamous woman thinks about sex basically not at all. So if your wife is initiating sex other times that are not when she's ovulating, it is usually because she loves you, she wants to be close, she knows that sex will eventually be good and that you want it and she will want it. You do want it and she will want it. So therefore, out of love for you and the desire for connection, she is not only going to do it, but she is going to, try to make it good. And that doesn't mean that she's not like really enjoying it. She is. But if you were not home, for example, most women would not be mournful that they would not be able to have their sexual encounter that evening within the constraints of monogamy and small children. They really wouldn't. They would just watch TV and go to sleep. So she's doing it for you in a lot of cases. So if you are not just for you, again, I don't want anybody's ego to shatter, but it's not just for you, but it's a large part for you out of love for you, which is wonderful. That is a great wife. Good. Kudos to you. You picked a good one. So, but the point is a lot of women don't share it because they think that that will ruin it. That doesn't ruin it. What that does is that stops, two things. One thing is if you don't ever say that you're really, really trying, the guy doesn't think he really, really has to try for anything because so many guys don't then think that their wife is literally doing anything for them. because the wife does so much shit for the kids, you know, so, and they're not a kid. So yeah, she cooks dinner, but dinner is for the kids. Yeah, she, you know, takes care of the kids, but they are the kids. And it's true. It's a point. But if they don't know about the whole fact that she's trying to be romantic and sexy and initiate sex and stuff in large part for them, then they can conclude that the wife is doing absolutely nothing for them. And ironically, they feel worse about the relationship. They just think that they're with a high sex drive woman, which they may not even classify as such because for porn, she's kind of low sex drive. So they're just with a woman, you know, and they have sex because that's what married people do. This is how guys think who have sex within their marriage. They don't interrogate it. And, you know, she likes it as much as I do, maybe even more. Shit, she's the one who has orgasms twice. And so, you know, she does nothing for me. Doesn't really give a shit about me. No, no. And so if you're in a situation where your husband has ever in any way implied that you don't do anything for him, but in fact you do try to be romantic and sexy in large part for him and to have a happy marriage with him and because he likes it, you should definitely say it. You shouldn't say it like, man, I don't want to fuck you at all, and then I do it. No, because that isn't true. You know, you do also enjoy it. But what you should say is something like, actually, you know, I really prioritize our sex life because you love it so much. And so even on days when I'm not into it at all and I would rather go to sleep, I tell myself, try to get in the mood. You know, you're attracted to him, try to get in the mood. And I do it for you, and then I end up enjoying myself. But let me tell you something. If I didn't say to myself, try to have sex, I wouldn't. So I am doing something for you. And this is to be said in situations where, as in the previous gender flipped example, the person's always saying that you don't love them enough. So this isn't for everybody. I mean, for everybody in general, you know, sure. Like, say I do loads of stuff for you because I love you, not because I want you to do anything back for me, but because I love you and I want you to be happy. But in a situation specifically where the partner has a problem in some way with what you do and how much you seem to evidence a commitment or love or whatever the hell they want, feel free then to be very open and honest about the stuff you do behind the scenes to be a better partner for them. Really. Be honest, and it can be very transformative. And it can, in fact, be more meaningful for the person then. Because in a very real way, a guy who's already kind of bored, you know, I mean, it's monogamy, you're kind of bored. He's already, okay, yeah, you know, I have a good sex life, it's fine. You know, she likes sex, I like sex, you know, but, you know, I really don't feel like she's that into me. It could be transformative for him to realize, you know what? She's not always that into sex before she starts to have it. And a lot of the reason that she does stuff like put on lingerie and this and that and the other is because she loves you so much and she wants you to have a great experience, you know? And so if you were a woman raised in a similar sort of household where you're a people pleaser and you're told never to toot your own horn, never to say that you're doing anything for credit, you know, then you may not have been kind of clear about this such that your husband doesn't even realize that you have been motivated by love for him as much, if not much more, than spontaneous sexual desire, which you're very unlikely to have within monogamy, as I've said now 1,012,000 times. So that's another example. Now, what is another? So I've said, like, if your spouse is always up your ass, you don't love me enough, these are things that you could say to say, yes, I do. But also, what's another situation? A situation where your partner really doesn't try to do shit for you. So, you know, you are actually doing stuff behind the scenes. And if you look at it, you're like, my partner is not really being very nice to me, you know, like my partner is kind of checked out. My partner doesn't do much, you know. If you feel like this, it may well be true, and the reason may be because your partner doesn't think you do much for him either, or her either. So then it's an important thing to do, and we do in couples counseling, to really be clear on both ends. Hey, look, if we really, really slow this down and go very into the details here, into the weeds about the things that you guys do, check it out. You're doing lots of stuff for each other. Both of you are sacrificing all the time, and it can make people feel very good to say, wow, like, I didn't know that, like, my husband does this or that for me, like that he does the grocery shop at this time because, you know, the time that he went at the different time, they didn't have apples that I like. And when he goes in the morning, they do. I didn't even realize that he was doing that, so I would have my apple that I like, or whatever the case may be, you know? So if you are doing stuff behind the scenes and you already know that you tend toward people pleasing or workhorse mentalities, which I have described amply in prior podcasts and posts, and you really minimize sharing the behind the scenes work that you do to make your partner happy, there are ways to share that in a way that does not at all hurt their feeling and instead amplifies what you're doing. Like, not only then are they having a good sex life, but even when you're not in the mood, you get yourself in the mood to do it. Wow, that's great. That is out of love. Like, that isn't just like, oh, well, here we are, two people that seem to have relatively similar sex drives falling into bed. Because you may think, what kind of guy would think that? They think that. I'm here to tell you, hello, they think that. So because you've not made it clear otherwise. And they watch so much porn that they think, man, yeah, that's what happens. Men and women, they see each other, they fuck, And so that if that's how he thinks about the world, then it's not going to be, it's going to be pretty transformative to know that while he's been bitching that you don't love him enough, in fact, you do. And you are getting yourself in the mood on a regular basis because you do. And not just as a coincidence because you happen to have desire at the same minute that he does, which many women are like, no, he can't possibly be that stupid. No way. He knows that I don't really want to a lot, but that I'm trying for him. And then eventually it all comes to fruition. Girl, no, he doesn't know that. If you've not told him, he doesn't know it, I promise. So tell him if he has any problems with you at all, and tell him anyway. Because in that case, he would honestly understand a lot more about like why, the first 10 minutes into it, you seem like you can't stand him or whatever the case may be. You're probably not as good an actress as you think. And it's very, very, and in this, as well as the Apple example, as well as the work travel example, it's meaningful for people when you sacrifice for them. So if you're doing it, don't hang it over their head, but certainly let them know. If they are the sort of person who feels terribly guilty about somebody doing anything for them, that's some shit they should work on in therapy. That's not a you thing. You want to be clear that you do things for the relationship, and that will make them feel like they want to do more things for you too, which is a very powerful, virtuous cycle and a wonderful bidirectional sort of, way that a marriage should go. And that would make a marriage successful is both people trying their hardest to do things for the other. All right. Hopefully this was interesting to you, and I will talk to y'all soon. Please subscribe. Bye-bye.